leveraging, the social web, you can be sure that you will have an infinite number of ways your content will get discovered now and in the
Yes.
future, right?
Yes. Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 51 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozone. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're seeing this, you are part of the Fediverse. Very excited for this. My guest today is Mike McHugh. Mike founded Paper Software, which was purchased by Netscape way back when. I loved seeing that. Tell Me Networks, which is bought by Microsoft, and he's currently the co-founder and CEO of Flipboard. He served on the board of directors at Twitter, and in 2012, Mike was quoted in the Daily Telegraph as saying, and I just think that you had an incredible insight into the way that Twitter could go, which was Twitter was created as an open platform, an open communications ecosystem, and I hope it can stay that way. You have to be really careful not to let money get in the way of that. Mike also runs a podcast as well, .social, so we won't hold that against him since he's my competitor, I guess. I don't know. We're all out for the same thing. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. And how would you like to be addressed?
As Mike, and it's great to be here. I'm psyched to be able to get to be on Fireside Fedi. I think you've done a great job doing this. And honestly, I don't think of ourselves as competitive at all.
No,
in the podcast
no.
space, you're way more, co-collaborators, co-creators, and I love the format. I like the live format, which I don't do. I'm kind of scared to do that. So I'm impressed, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes some prep, and like, especially when technical issues happen, you're freaking out and like, oh my God, I'll fix that. Just give me a second. But no, it's just people talking to each other. And that's why I love this the best. Plus I'm really lazy. I hate editing. So
it's not a bad idea,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So Mike, I gave a very brief introduction over your extensive career and history, and you have an amazing Wikipedia page. But for those that haven't seen anything about it, how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, I mean, I started by writing video games back in high school. That was my first thing. I like the video games you have and back there, Joust, Galaga, Qbert. So I've made versions of all those games for the TI 99 4A computer back in where it was like 15K of RAM, 14.5K of addressable RAM out of a 16K computer. And I wrote another game called Night Mission that was sort of a takeoff of Choplifter.
Yeah.
And open sourced that game and helped write a book. Mostly this other guy I worked with wrote the book about the game, about how to write video games. So that was really my start in the tech world, when I was in high school and writing video games, and then, kind of getting out there and actually selling them and commercializing them. And it was amazing. So I never looked back from that.
And I mean, you're I think like 10 years older than I am, or not much, but so you were on the cusp too. If anything, you were more prepared technologically wise, education wise, for when the internet came around, right? When you saw it, the web, let's be specific. It's the web.
Yeah.
What did you kind of think about it?
Dude, that is a great question, because I will never forget the first day I saw the web. Hey, do you have that too? Yeah, do you remember where you were the first day you saw the web?
100%. It's burned into my brain. It is. Yeah. I kept my friend up. He dialed into AOL and he's like, check this out. I was literally on that thing for 4 hours. He's sleeping on the floor and kept waking up going, let's go to bed now. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Like
it's such a sort of key moment in a lot of people's lives, right? The first time they saw the web. And for me, I was after I wrote those video games, I ended up getting a real job at IBM. And IBM at the time in the late 80s everything was based on mainframes. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
they had PCs, but they were really just like the main thing you would do on your PC is open up a terminal emulator, and you'd be basically online, and all
Yep.
your email, like there was like the equivalent of Google Docs but for mainframes. It's called profs, right? Professional office system, profs. And
Wow.
that's what you used. And there was a graphics system where you'd make basically like Keynote or PowerPoint, called APGS, which stood for a presentation graphics system. It was all ran on mainframes. And so for me, I grew up in this world where everything was a service online, and software, that you downloaded to your computer was like a whole different thing, right? So
Yeah.
when I saw the web, it was like, oh, wait a minute, this is that
You,
world. This is like,
yeah.
and so yeah. And when I first saw the web, I was working on the first, I was working on so there was a company called Quarterdeck Office Systems that had licensed one of my products called Sidebar, that I worked on,
Okay.
at Paper Software. And I was in Santa Monica working late at night, integrating this product into their sort of ecosystem. And I walked by this room that was dark. It was like 3 in the morning. I was getting a snack, and there was this office that was kind of lit up. I walked into the office to see what was going on, and I saw this unusual looking software. It was running on X. This is Quarterdeck. They made X Windows and
Oh,
Desk
okay.
View and
Oh
stuff.
my God.
And but it was NCSA Mosaic, and it turns out Quarterdeck was the first commercial licensee of NCSA Mosaic. And I went up to the guy.
Oh
I was
my
like, "What is
God.
that?" He's like, "This is Mosaic." And I'm like, what is it?" He's like, "It uses the web." I'm like, "What's the web?" And he showed it to me, and I was like, "Oh my God, everything will change." It
Yeah.
was mind blowing. So yeah, that was the first time I saw the web. And for me, it was a natural, I kind of saw everything that had happened on mainframes was just going to happen
Yeah.
online on the web, right?
And that's incredible. That's such an incredible, like, I mean, to me, my story, it's so real and so visceral. I can literally see myself there. But you look at that now, which at the time, right, you knew it was going to be big, but you couldn't realize how big it would get. Like, it is prevalent. It is everywhere through our lives. Kids have it in schools. We have it in our pockets. And there you were, just experiencing history as it was unfolding. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. That is so
And then I
cool.
worked on, and because Quarterdeck was the first licensee, my next project was to integrate Sidebar into NCSA Mosaic. So I was immediately working on the first commercial browser ever before Netscape happened. I mean,
Yeah.
and then Netscape happened, and then I ended up getting Paper was acquired by Netscape. So I've been working on browsers, in some form or fashion since they were started.
And was this something that you were attracted to, or was this something you just kind of fell into? Like, I'll just go with the wave, and here I am, 30 years later, a major player and shaping the internet, and hopefully for the next 30 years, shaping it more.
It was what got me excited was the concept of democratization of access to information, publishing and access to information. And the browser
Yeah.
obviously is a critical component of that. But it's also the whole back end too, and the whole ecosystem and how the web works. And and fast forwarding to today, when I saw the social web, when I realized that Mastodon
Yeah.
was built on ActivityPub and really understood how Mastodon worked and how ActivityPub worked, it was analogous to seeing the web for the first time. I was like, this is going to change everything. We are now standardizing human connection on the internet, which
Yeah.
which has never been done before, right? And that
Right.
is a very, very big deal that will transform, I think, everything, just as the web transformed everything. So it's like, to me, I think we're in the early stages of that transformation, but it is going to happen,
I
and it's
I'm
well underway.
I mean, we're biased, right? But there have been a lot of folks that have yourself major history in watching these things unfold. We have Twitter, former Twitter folks, not just, yourself who was, what was it? You're part of the board, but we have people
Yeah.
literally from Twitter working on this stuff now. Like, this is what we wanted Twitter to be. And we
Yeah.
have so much experience in the Fediverse and so many people excited about it. That's why I keep saying, like, it has to be the next evolution, right? And you looked at that and you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna wrangle it and let all of my people kind of like join in. You were one of, if I remember correctly, it was big news when Flipboard announced that they were going to be a part of the open social
Mhm.
web. How did that unfold?
Well, when I saw the work that, well, first of all, me, like everyone else, we were very disappointed to see what was playing out with Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and Elon and all of that. And so when I joined Mastodon and understood really fully what it was and how Eugene had built it, I was completely blown away and realized that like this is the future of how any product that does anything with social should work. And with Flipboard, our original 1.0 release
Mm-hmm.
approximated the Fediverse because what we did was we connected via this Facebook social graph, open graph API. We
Okay.
Instagram was a separate company at the time, and they had a separate API.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter had their own API. We had LinkedIn's API, and so basically, with Flipboard 1.0, you could actually pull together social posts from across the realm of social networks and view them all in one beautiful magazine-like
Mm-hmm.
experience on your
Mm-hmm.
iPad or your iPhone. And so we built that. That was what worked in 1.0. And we solved through all these issues of like, well, you have multiple accounts and you comment on one thing and post to a different thing, making it all work and make sense. We solved all those problems. But then unfortunately, and it was great because like you could see all of your social activity in one app, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um, and I could post to wherever I wanted to. I didn't have to switch over to those other apps,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and but then those guys started shutting down their APIs.
Yeah.
We then realized like, okay, the way our app works is inherently social. It's powered by social signals.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need to build our own social platform to basically prepare for the day when none of these APIs are available anymore. So
Yeah. I didn't
we
even think about
created a
that.
whole separate social layer, basically our own walled garden, which lets
Okay.
people curate content, right? So they find a great story, they can post it into a magazine on Flipboard, which we call basically, ways to like categorize posts that you're sharing. So you can follow
Okay.
just my magazine about space if that's what you're interested in, what I'm sharing, and you don't have to see everything else I'm posting, right?
Yeah.
So that idea of like curation is what we built into this social layer and Flipboard. And that protected us from like, hey, all these other social APIs getting shut down. And we created a really great ecosystem there with, tens of millions of magazines that people have curated and still curate to this day.
Yeah.
But it was a walled garden. And so what I wanted to try to do with when we saw ActivityPub and what Eugene had built with Mastodon and what others were building too, with Dan with PixelFed,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and all of this sort of explosion of like cool new apps built on ActivityPub. We wanted to just be a part of that whole ecosystem and basically set it up so that anyone curating a magazine on Flipboard could be followed by anyone in any one of these other apps,
Mm-hmm.
which now works, or vice versa. Anyone on Flipboard being able to follow someone on PixelFed, for example,
Yes.
or follow someone on Mastodon and have that then show up inside of Flipboard, right? So
Right.
we did two-way federation,
Yep.
and that was a huge lift, but it works now and it's great. And
Well,
it's an amazing experience now.
and no one can rug pull, right? Like you're building something on top of
Right.
an open platform. Even if Eugene
Right.
decides I don't like Mike anymore, you can no longer access Mastodon at social. You still have everything else,
Right.
right?
Exactly. We right. Right.
It's
That rug pulling that happened with Flipboard 1.0, eventually we got, a series of rugs pulled out from under us.
Yeah.
That won't happen again, right?
Yeah.
And what's really great about it is that it's not just about the the sort of consumption of these social posts, inside of Flipboard. It's also that people who are curating on Flipboard can now contribute
Hmm.
to the broader social web, right?
Right. And I think so I have two questions based on this. One is, well, not questions, but well, yeah, I guess questions. The first one being that I spoke to someone else, and I want to say it was Miss Kirsten, who does the indie beat. And I asked her, I said, like, I love Pandora. I think that there are some places where algorithms are okay. If I'm listening to the Foo Fighters, there are other bands similar to the Foo Fighters, right? And I'm okay experiencing those. It's when you start getting, the owner of the platform, his post is in every single feed. I'm not talking about MySpace here either. um,
Right.
that you kind of question, is this okay? And I love that you're talking about, you follow the curated feed of someone,
Yeah.
because that is natural. That is organic. I have a friend. We're both interested in X. He says, "Hey, have you seen this?" And he tosses it to me. It's not some random, algorithms like, you might like this, and it's
Yeah.
never going to be perfect.
That point, by the way, you're making is very important, which is,
That's what I was going to ask you.
the
Yeah,
way
why'd you decide?
social media has worked in the past has been there's one monolithic feed that you tend to spend all
Right,
your time in.
right.
And you have more or less control over that feed. Maybe it's just a straight up following feed, maybe it's a for you feed. Um, and that particular model of consumption is very much like you're just passing the time. I kind of use the analogy of like you're going to a coffee shop
Mm-hmm.
when you're waiting in line, waiting for your coffee.
Yep.
All right, you're just passing the time. But
Yeah.
when you sit down with your coffee and you're going to think about where you're going with your life, or where you're going to go on vacation over the summer, what
Yeah.
hobby that you're into,
Right.
what then do you look at? Right? A random feed
Yes.
of just random stuff? Or do you go to a
Mm-hmm.
feed that's like really specific to the interests that you have? And
Yep.
that particular use case is what we started to do with Flipboard magazines, and now are continuing with custom feeds on Surf. This concept that you curate these
Mm-hmm.
very specific feeds that are social, and but bring together all the best people, conversations, and content for a particular interest, right? That's a whole other new dimension for social media that I'm particularly excited about.
And that's I think you hit the nail on the head that I've wanted out of this. Like, yes, we have remade the old social web, right? That's not going to be enough. We will never be Twitter. We will never be Facebook. We don't have the money that
Right.
they have capitalized on. But what we can be is an amalgamation or a transformation of all those things. One of the things that I really liked about Surf is I can view my feed as like a Mastodon feed, and then I can go view my feed as magazines, like, because I kind of like the Reddit style more than the scrolling Twitter. Like, I'll check on Mastodon, like you said, while I'm in line. What are people talking about? Okay, now let me go over to PyFed and see what's
Right.
hitting the top. What actually might be,
Hmm.
interesting in those that I subscribe to. It's
Yeah.
it's more focus, less noise, but it's all powered the same way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why? So you guys have, and Mike and I were talking about this to begin with. I kind of messed up on the show in that I wanted to talk to them, and they're working on a project called Surf, right? And it is currently in beta, and we were going to talk about that. It's not quite ready. It's still in beta, and I just went ahead and scheduled this apparently on my own. So I apologize. And
Yeah.
then we
I'm
got
glad to do
mixed up on time zones, which always happens. So I'm kind of used to that. Time zones, man, like they kill everyone, don't they?
it.
They get
Yeah.
um so that's why I try to be as flexible as possible with this. So thank you very much. But how how did you get started on Surf? Why not just be like, okay, well, we have Flipboard, let's just
Hmm.
wedge that in there. But
Yeah.
why a new thing? Why call it
Yeah.
Surf? All of that.
Yeah, so great question. The Flipboard app is 15 years old now. We built it in a different era.
Yeah.
Um, and people absolutely love it. and I have a lot of respect for, when people settle into a user experience that they love, the last
Hmm.
thing they want to do is see it all of a sudden overhauled, right? And so I've
Right.
actually had people come up to me in the airport. This actually happened when I was in Korea, in Seoul, and some guy came up to me. He's like, "Hey, are you Mike McHugh?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I love Flipboard, and I want to thank you for never changing it. Like, thank you for
Right.
not changing it. And
Yeah.
so I really, really, I have so much belief that once people feel like they have a product for what they want, and it's doing it and it's solving the problem for them,
Yeah.
don't like hit the reset button. Now for
Yeah.
us, 15 years later, you can imagine we've learned a lot.
Oh
The
yeah.
world has changed,
Hmm.
and we're dealing with when the social web wasn't a thing
Yeah.
when we started Flipboard 15 years ago, right? So if you think about how would you reimagine the user experience for a modern day, next generation social content experience that
Hmm.
is built on the social web, that's what Surf is. And it allows us to work with a completely clean slate, keep the Flipboard ecosystem and the Flipboard, user base happy. And we're continuing to
Okay.
invest in that
Yeah.
product and so on, right? And by
Yeah.
the way, as we invest in like custom feeds on Surf, they'll work inside a Flipboard, right? So it's not
Yep.
like it's basically two skins on the
Hmm.
same social web ecosystem, right? And one which there's already millions of people who use it and love it, and they don't really don't want it to change drastically. And then
Yeah.
there's another whole group of people who want a more modern kind of new approach that's built from the ground up around the social web,
Hmm.
that leverages video and podcasts more and so on. So that's what Surf is for. It's two
Okay.
different views onto the same ecosystem.
No, and I think that is an experienced view what you have. I've worked with software engineers that are like, well, I don't like this, we're just going to rebuild it from the ground up,
Hmm.
which is fine, except when you have users using it. Like, you don't wake up tomorrow
Yeah.
and every room in your house is rearranged, your socks are now in the kitchen. Like,
Hmm.
there are certain
Yeah.
workflows that even normal people have
Yeah.
that they expect,
Yeah.
and these constantly get changed. And that's one thing that I
Yeah.
realized. Like, let's say Eugene tomorrow, creator of Mastodon,
Hmm. Hmm.
decides to rebuild and change everything on the front end, right? Someone can fork it and still give you the Mastodon classic look.
Hmm.
And that's the power of open source. I love open source. Is Surf open source?
No,
Okay.
it's not in our DNA. We didn't start
Hmm.
that way, and it's really
No.
hard to like switch something to open source afterwards.
Yeah.
And so much of our so Surf leverages a lot of our Flipboard backend. So
Okay.
it would be a huge lift to open source it.
Okay.
But
No,
it
no, no.
is, the intent is to
But
make sure that it is still fully open, and that, it's open protocols. It's
yeah.
the feeds that are being made can be ultimately viewed on other platforms, could be ported to other platforms. Like,
Hmm.
we want to make sure that there isn't that sense of traditional proprietary lock-in.
Right. And what was it? So you guys create feeds. Is it channel.org or is that separate?
No, that's a different, that's
Okay,
a
that's
that's
a
a
different
completely
project.
different thing. Yeah.
They announced the same time you did at the last Fedi forum. That's why I got them
Hmm.
confused. But yeah,
Hmm.
your follows, your feeds you can still follow from other places, because you're following essentially like groups. It's an activity pub group or something like that, right?
Well, let me give you an example of a
Mm-hmm.
feed in action, right? So, uh, there's a great feed called Retrospection on Surf, and it's all like retro stuff, like what was happening back in the 80s and 90s. A lot of video games, emulators, software emulators,
Yeah.
pinball machines, things like that, right? This is a feed that has like you know I don't know, 30 different sources in it. It has
Yeah.
Blue Sky users, it has Mastodon users, it has hashtags the hashtags actually work cross-platform, cross-protocol. So if someone posts hashtag retrospection on Blue Sky or on Mastodon or on Threads or on Flipboard or on YouTube, it will show up, that post will show up in this feed.
Yeah.
They can integrate podcasts, they can integrate all these different, experiences, or sorry, sources. And then that feed can then be viewed on Surf. It can be published to Blue Sky, and people can look at it there. So the idea is to, combine any source on the social web, regardless of whether it's ActivityPub based, @proto based, or RSS
Mm-hmm.
based,
Mm-hmm.
into the best combination of people, discussions, and content for a theme.
Yeah. No, and I mean, so us being nerds, right? We talk about the Fediverse, we talk about ActivityPub, we talk about AT Proto. When I picked up Surf, outside of trying to figure out like how do I get feeds, which is a new kind of process, right? It was very intuitive. I could literally see it as you said, like grandma comes to me and wants to follow, cat pictures. Okay, well, here's a cat feed. Whenever you open your phone and you go to Surf, just go to your cat feed and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's just scroll, and it's not just this a blast of all kinds of just text everywhere, right? Like it is one at a time. Even when it's text, it is isolated to that. And I really enjoy that.
In fact, that point is, if you were to ask me, how do I think about the social web?
Yeah.
In from a sort of vision point of view, my sense of it is that the social web is going to boil down, just like the web has websites, the social web has feeds.
Yeah.
To me, the feed is the analog to the website. And people will want to go to lots of different feeds for lots of different reasons. And those feeds can live in lots of different places and have sources that are made up of any. Yeah. And by the way, sources that can be, feeds can be inside of feeds, right? So the concept of a feed is like an atomized, website in a lot of way, right? That can be, pieces of content, conversations, people can be sort of mixed and matched and combined in all sorts of different ways. They can be filtered. They can be, you can look just at video. You can, you can do all sorts of different things. And that creates for a group of people who are interested in something like the NBA. There's a fantastic feed on Surf called NBA Threads. And this feed was made by a guy named David Rushing, Yo Rush. And he basically, you can see this feed on Surf, and you can see this feed on Blue Sky. And what it does is it combines all the best, it combines, first of all, the hashtag NBA Threads. Again, whether you post with that hashtag on Threads or Blue Sky or Mastodon, but then also every podcast that he thinks is great for the NBA, every YouTube channel that he thinks is great for NBA fans. And he pulls it all together into this like completely awesome experience. When there's a game on, you see all these people talking about what's going on. They're posting video clips. But then when there's not a game on, you'll see the post-game reports and the TV broadcasts and the podcast episodes, wondering what's going to happen with the next game, right? And so it ebbs and flows, and it's absolutely magical, and it works on both Surf or inside of Blue Sky.
This is so one of the big questions on the open social web is how do we fund this? And I think that this is the exact way that in my opinion, this is the exact way that we fund the open social web, not the ad-filled garbage everywhere, but NBA, right? I don't know NBA, but I know like Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls want to run a open social website so that they can interact with their fans as it's going on. And now we can innovate. Now we can work with the teams upstream, right? And have support contracts to make sure that our stuff stays up. And it's in my opinion, very much the open source model of, get the people. We're normal people. You want to reach us, you need to reach us where we're at. And we have a product that we're interested, come to us, but you need to run your own to make sure that you can monitor it, moderate it, that we know it's you. You could literally have, Dana at chicagobulls.com or whatever, whoever it is. And I love that kind of
They're
power and that kind of freedom.
Yeah, they're almost like mini dedicated social networks, right? Like every
Yeah.
podcast should have one of these feeds because it's like if you have a podcast, and I have one by the way for Dot Social, I added as sources to that feed all the guests that I've had on at Dot Social in the past. And you can go to this feed and it's always interesting because you see Corey posting something, or you'll see David Amell posting something, or Eugene posting something, and
Yeah.
they're all people that are sort of in this sort of Fediverse realm, right? And so for me, this feed allows me to have a community component to my podcast,
And
right? So I think every podcast will want to have something like
I
this. It's
do.
like yeah.
No, I do. That is absolutely, because we talk about, again, not having algorithms. And so many times I've heard from people like, well, there's no way to grow. It's organic. Go to a party. How do you meet people? You go talk to them, or you talk to your friend who introduces you to someone else, which again, coming back to those, the way that we find things should be more organic instead of, oh, you talked about your cat. Here's 10 pounds of kitty litter on sale at Target. It's like, I don't have a
Yeah.
cat.
Yeah.
Like, I just look into cat pictures. That's it.
This is yeah. The challenge is like there's nothing wrong with algorithms in and of themselves. It's
Right.
algorithms that you don't get to control.
Yes.
That's the
Hmm.
problem. And the also the way these social media experiences have been architected has always been around a for you feed and a following feed. And that's
Hmm.
just one use case. That is not going to get you the kinds of use cases where like you just want to dive into what's going on in the NBA. And
Yeah.
right, so
Yep.
there's two different they're both valid use cases,
Yeah.
but the problem is I think that most social media experiences are really just, like especially something like TikTok, it's just very much architected around we're going to give you a feed of content to keep you addicted to this for you feed and you don't get
Yeah.
to control the algorithm. It's just, it's one thing, that's what you spend all your time in. And I think that's just uh, an unfortunate use of social media. And I think once you give
Hmm.
people the freedom to say, I want to be able to just go look at NBA stuff,
Hmm.
and then someone else has done the work of curating who you should follow, what podcasts are in there, you can always like, you can leverage that curation and then you can add to it yourself, right? And you can decide how much time you want to spend in that feed. Um, and or build your own version of that feed, right? So that to me is like a whole other level of social media. It's much healthier, much more useful, much more interesting.
Well, and it's interesting that you say it, but it's also interesting that you have Flipboard. And you're like, it's a walled garden, and you looked at that and you're like, that's not okay, right? Because you could have just said, you know what, these are my users, I'm keeping
Right,
them. But
right,
you want to
right.
grow, you want to share this with everyone else. And I think, again, that's what pushes innovation. We've seen people bringing all kinds of projects onto the activity pub. Whether they work out or not, we don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out, right? One of the things, and Marcy, thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to try surf, it's really cool, by the way. Sign up at surf.social and use referral code Fireside Surf. I also did a video on it to kind of show it off, but this was months ago now. Maybe I need to do another video or take a look. But
Yeah, maybe give it a couple of weeks before we get that. We're gonna get the web version out for you, and I think you're gonna love it.
oh, that's probably my main. That will probably be my main way of consuming the
Yeah.
Fediverse. And how do you, as and I don't know if this is crossing a line. You don't have to say if you want, but how do you plan on, again, monetization is a big thing. We don't know how that
Uh-huh.
works yet on the Fediverse. There is a lot of pushback on the standard advertisement model. Um,
Uh-huh.
I'm not opposed to ads. I'm opposed to the
Uh-huh.
tracking. And
Uh-huh.
when you go down like a
Uh-huh.
website and there's a paragraph, an ad, a paragraph, an ad, a
Uh-huh.
paragraph. So what is your
Yeah.
guys' plans for something like that?
I know you probably want to hear what happened next on the show, but the following section is only available on the Fediverse. These uploads to big tech platforms such as YouTube, they're just to spread awareness about the Fedi. They were never supposed to be the official way for you to watch the show anyway. So go on and get the full episode on video.firesidefedi.live. It is absolutely free, just a different website. This video will now continue from a bit later in the conversation.
Yeah,
Constellation.
I read again in the wiki that you had wanted to be an astronaut when you grew up.
Yeah.
Still
that's
time.
right.
Still time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, but it is something I really love to do. And it's one of the things that, has gotten me into, finding really good content about sailing, or I also love backpacking or photography.
That's
It's one of the things that I use surf and Flipboard all the time, every day, to, like, when I'm relaxing, like looking at content, for great backpacking,
that.
stories, videos, podcasts. Same thing for sailing, same thing for photography. So,
And I
um,
think that's one of the things that we've got away from is people helping people. Like
yeah,
I'm a Linux nerd. I've been on Linux for 18 years now. When I first started, I just talked to everyone. I just consumed as much as possible. And it's all human driven. Like
yes.
I have a
This
specific
point,
question.
Anthony, this point is such an important point, right? Because this is how, in the world of AI, where humans are seemingly mattering less and less, if you believe, what some people are saying, the reality is people matter more and more, right? And how do you
Yeah.
maintain those connections with people? And people love to help each other. So if I asked you, hey, what are the top blogs that I should be reading for Linux? You would
Right?
have an answer for me, right?
Yeah.
And you would tell me, like, hey, these are the 3 blogs, these are the 2 podcasts, these are the 4 YouTube channels, right? You would know the
Yeah.
answer to that.
Yeah.
And, well, if I'm getting into Linux, I want to be able to get the benefit of your help there, right?
Yeah.
And so you could help people at scale, but, like, by basically, I may not know all the different podcasts about Linux. I'm constantly amazed about all the podcasts I don't know about, right? And so
Well, and
when
it's
people recommend content, podcasts, YouTube channels to other people, it's
yeah.
amazing. And that, to me, is one of the key things we're trying to do. We did with sort of Flipboard, but now doing even more with Surf, right?
Mhm.
You can easily, if you want to get into sailing, if you look at my sailing feed, it is like the best collection of sailing podcasts, YouTube channels, and blogs and users in the world. And so, like, you don't have to, like, think about it. You can go in and just, like, look at my sailing feed, or you can look at the people I've added as sources and put
That's
those in your own sailing feed, right? So
right.
that level of people connecting with each other, that's way better than any algorithm, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
that's so that's key right now.
and your form of sailing, like I might be like, okay, so I know Mike is into sailing. Let me go follow Mike. That's not kind of the sailing I want. Oh, but he's listed all
Right.
these other people. Let me find it. Like none of us is exactly the same. None of us has the
That's
answer to
totally
everything.
right.
And
Yeah.
coming in as a group again and finding your community is what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
right.
I love it.
That's right. There's, like, sailors who love to just explore, sailors who love to race. There's all different kinds of photographers, street photographers, landscape photographers, photographers who use a particular camera. So having people who are into something, a particular kind of camera, a particular type of photography, being able to get together seamlessly and
Yeah.
share content independent of an algorithm, to me, is like, that's absolutely huge.
And I think one of the things that I've talked a lot about folks on the show is our values and our morals don't necessarily equate to someone else, right? There are some basic human things we can all agree on. And as for surf, and I know the answer to this, but I want you to kind of give an explanation behind it. If I get on there and I want to follow a specific thing that for some reason in country X is banned, is surf going to take my feed down?
So there's multiple layers here. First of all,
Right.
if you make a feed that is a hate speech filled feed, first of all, there's a lot of sources in that feed that are going to get banned anyway from like most of these instances and so on, right? So
Yeah.
there's already a layer on Blue Sky and Mastodon and on Flipboard
Yep.
where these actors just don't, they can't survive very long on these unreputable instances. And then on instances that are not reputable, those instances don't even appear in like Flipboard or Surf or
Mm-hmm.
other, there's all these block lists for instances and things like that, right? So there's already a layer of protection there.
Yep.
On
Exactly.
top
Yep.
of that, on top of that, you know, Surf isn't driven by algorithms the same way, let's say TikTok or Instagram is, right? So um, we aren't just willy-nilly recommending feeds to people, right?
Right. Exactly.
so
Yes.
so so we have a whole editorial layer where we have editorial judgment, which we apply of like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good feed, this is not a good feed. And so we will feature feeds manually to our user base, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
you can still find feeds, like we aren't focused on adult content. So we're not trying to go feature adult content, but some
Right.
people want to be able to get to adult content. So
Perfect
you can
example.
go
Yep.
search for those things. But we're not, there's an editorial layer that we're trying to provide, right? On
Yeah.
top of this sort of systematic layer that Mastodon, Blue Sky, and the sort of the social web infrastructure provides. And then there's like a whole other layer with like individual users being able to just decide to block or opt in or not, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's so really, I think what you're getting to now is a point where we have um, we have a level of both independence and safety
Mm-hmm.
starting to balance each other out, right?
Yes. Yes.
There's not like, we aren't making editorial decisions to like take someone down off of a platform or something, because we don't run these platforms. They're not our platforms, right?
It's just you're
That's
just
for the
a
instance
window
owners to
into them.
decide.
Yeah.
Right. And so I mean, we do run an instance with Flipboard.social to be fair. And we
Yes.
have blocked Nazis from that instance. I've personally run into some Nazis and blocked them and then blocked their instance, right? So as an
Yep.
instance manager, instance owner. But I think that like finding a balance where there's a level of editorial control to create a certain vibe, a certain mood, right? Like an environment where we're not trying to recreate a town hall, or sorry, town square kind of environment where anybody can
Yeah.
say anything they want anytime. There's places to already do that. With
Right.
Surf, we're trying to allow people to like dive into feeds that they're interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a feed will be more political, or it'll be more um more inclusive of certain kinds of beliefs or whatever. But we will only feature that feed if we think it's a good feed. We're not featuring it based on, oh, it's left or right or whatever. It's much more of like, is this a quality feed for a particular class of users that would absolutely love it, that's not like hate speech, not vile stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
And
and
as
the vast majority of feeds that are getting created are things like feeds for a video game, for all these different video games, feeds for Linux, feeds for
yeah.
photography, right? So I think that like we'll see how all this plays out, but like there's lots of different layers that I think we have as tools to make sure that the right thing
Mm-hmm.
happens.
And I like how you pointed out, like, there are places to have these conversations. You can go have your conversation where you want. I have a friend. He's a very good friend. He's an amazing person. He's not a bad person. He's very into guns. Like,
Yeah,
around the rest of the world, that is a
right,
shocking thing, right? And a lot of people don't want that, but he does. He is not
right,
taking his gun into your face and saying, "Here, play with it."
right,
He's
right.
a responsible gun owner.
Yeah, and yeah, and I think if you think about it, another analogy here is subreddits, right? So every subreddit has
Yep.
their own moderation strategy, and
Yep.
then Reddit itself has a global moderation strategy, right? So a lot of the I'll take NBA threads for example, that feed I mentioned earlier. Rush will say, "Oh, too many people are spamming the NBA threads hashtag with gambling posts, right? Like posts
Oh,
mostly to try to get you to gamble.
yeah.
So they're like ads, they're spam, right? So he can block the entire topic of gambling in NBA threads. He can exclude that from his feed. And he gets to do that as a moderator of that feed, right? So these feeds are moderated by the owner as much or as little as they want to. And that
I
really
love
is something
that.
that, yeah, that's so every feed owner can moderate as much or as little as they want to, right? And then users can decide how much they want to participate in that feed or not based on the
Yeah.
moderation rules.
Yeah, and it's, believe me, I made my own. It's super easy to make your own. You, as you said, you can even have feeds in feeds. I
Yeah.
added I think it was what was it called? Defenders of the Fediverse, I think is one of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
added
Guardians of the
that.
Fediverse. That's
Guardians
Tim
of Fediverse.
Chambers'
Yeah.
feed. Tim Chambers' feed. Yeah.
Tim Chambers seems to love making different feeds, and it's
Oh, he's
great.
got some awesome ones. He made one
Yeah.
for the No Kings protest the other day. That was absolutely awesome.
I've never been to one. My wife and I will be going to the next.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have to. I literally earlier today. I'm actually kind of glad this got pushed back because right before it was time to go live, initially, I was calling all my elected officials and just screaming because I live in North Carolina, and you
Yeah.
know, not to get into
You're right
politics,
in
but
the
it's
you're right in the middle. You're right in the middle of it. Yeah, we went to No Kings for the first time. We went just in Palo Alto here, and you would think, well, we were thinking, oh, there'd be like 40 or 50 people on the street corner. It's thousands of people. It was
it's amazing.
amazing. It was awesome, and it was joyous, and it was like it was very cool. And so Tim created this feed, and I shared it out on Mastodon and Blue Sky and Threads. And it's an awesome. It was amazing because you could just go and see all the different videos from all the different No Kings protests that people were sharing on the social
And
web in real time.
they can't take them down.
Yeah, and nobody can take him down. Right? Exactly.
That's exactly
Yeah,
how it should be.
so I loved it, and I do think that like um, this concept of being able to for an event, for a real-time thing that's happening, or for something that's just a sustained thing that you're interested in, like a hobby
Hmm.
or a sport, you know, it there's so many different reasons why you want to gather conversations,
Hmm.
videos, podcasts, newsletters together in one place.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hoping, I'm really just looking forward. I've been continually surprised by the kinds of feeds people have made on Surf, and I can't wait as we open it up to the web and allow everybody to participate in this to see, what they do.
Yes, I'm very excited to see it. It's so cool. Gabe, I think that is Gabe, the creator. I'm assuming it's Gabe, the creator of Owncast, asked the question: how long until Flipboard supports non-Mastodon microblogging software when linking your Fediverse account?
Let's see. I'm not totally sure I understand, but there's a
Yeah,
couple of ways. First of all, Flipboard supports RSS feeds today. So any RSS feed can be plugged into Flipboard, and you can add that. We do also support any activity pub feed, right? So you can also follow any activity pub feed,
hmm.
and then that will show up in your Flipboard. So I'm not sure if there's some other model
Well,
that he's referring to there.
yeah, and if so, again, I think that's Gabe from Owncast Development. If he's experiencing an issue trying to get, say, Owncast alerts or something, or whatever he's referring to, is he able to reach out to the Surf team or the Flipboard team?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gabe, you can just send me an email, Mike at Flipboard or Mike M at flipboard.com. And then I'll just get you connected to the right folks to make sure that we get it fixed for you.
And I could tell you for a fact they answer their emails because I talked to your wife, your co-founder, numerous times, as well as someone else and you. And yeah, it is so weird that in today's world we've gotten so far away from customer service that when someone's like, "Oh yeah, just email me and I'll get you to the right team," that matters. That makes a difference, right? Like it's Mind
Well,
blowing.
it makes an even bigger difference for us now too, because I feel like we all feel like we're just part of Team Fediverse. So we just
I love
want
that.
the Fediverse to work properly. And if there's some wrinkle or, rough edge that's happening, we
Yeah,
want to collaborate with whoever to like iron out that rough edge, so that more people can benefit from the social web and see it working at its best.
that's awesome. I'm ah so excited.
Yeah, me too, man. And it's good to talk to you too, Anthony, because I like, I really enjoy like at Fediforum, which anyone who has not gone to Fediforum yet, you really should.
Yes,
Johannes Ernst puts that on and it's really great.
it's amazing.
But it's always nice to be in a Fediforum discussion with you there. You're so enthusiastic about the future here,
Thank
and
you.
it's the energy is just so reflective of like how a lot of other people were all just trying to like put our heads together, collaborate,
Mm-hmm.
and independent of any one project or product that we're each working on, we're all collaborating together. I was just on the phone yesterday morning with John O'Nolan for a couple of hours, brainstorming about how we're going to do community and on the social web and how that's going to integrate with Ghost, and
Yeah,
it's amazing to be able to just like collaborate with all these
yeah,
builders and thinkers, the new social guys,
yep.
it just all of the folks,
Gosh,
that are working to make the social web better. And people
that's
who are using
exciting.
Flipboard
It's
right now
amazing.
to integrate with the social web, these are the early adopters, and we absolutely want to make sure we're collaborating with them too. Like, what kind of experiences are working well? What should we be doing differently,
Yeah,
within the work that we're doing on Flipboard and Surf?
yeah. Because you're not always going to have the right answer. I just spoke to Jazz Michael King, who does IFTOS, and he's like,
Hmm.
when you think
Yeah.
back to the original web, like how many people had specific email accounts? They went away.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out a viable model for it, and we still are. And you need that input, right? Like, hey, this,
100%. It
yeah,
has to be collaborative.
yeah,
It has to be a collaborative process. I think that's what's really exciting is like we can, the people at Blue Sky, the people at Mastodon,
mm-hmm,
the people at Flipboard, people, like a new social, Anuj and Ryan, Evan Prodromo, like
yep,
Dan, like, everybody is collaborating to
mm-hmm.
figure out these bigger, broader questions about how community should work, how privacy should work, how monetization should work, how
There's a
accounts
lot of
should
people.
work.
Yeah,
It's exciting. And I feel like it is a the spirit of collaboration reminds me a lot of the early days of the web.
mm-hmm, yeah. Box 464. We talked about that earlier. You're gonna have to go back and watch the rest of the video once I post it. But now, for the real reason I asked Mike here is to give him the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime. Since you run a podcast called Dot Social, our prize today
Yeah.
is a machine that will make all those dots actually social, so they can have a conversation back to you. Because to be honest, Mike, you're a smart guy, but talking to a bunch of dots just seems weird. I have watched the show. I'm just... Are you ready for the quiz, Mike?
I am.
All right. Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs? Gosh.
My favorite movie. Oh my God.
I
That's
love
just such a
Spaceballs.
hard one, man. I can't pick one. I can't pick one. Let me see if I can come up with one that's relevant though for the social web, maybe.
I don't know if there is one. Well, I mean, there's like the Facebook ones that could show you what not to do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I don't really have it's hard. I don't have a favorite movie.
Okay.
How's that for an answer?
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, it is a quiz, but hey, that's good. All
Yeah.
right. Next question. Film or digital?
Well, I do digital. I wish I could do film. I don't have I have not had the time to learn how to do film properly.
And it doesn't give you a second chance, really, does it? Like you have finite film for the second that you're doing it.
Well, I will say is that the Leica that I have is the M10D, which has no display on the back, so it acts like a film camera. So you're not
Okay.
so you're not like always like looking at the picture you took and taking you out of the moment. It's much more like a film camera.
Oh,
So
okay.
you don't know what you're going to get until you like take the card and import it, right? So it's as close as you can come to film without having to also do like the developing and all that stuff.
Yeah, I talked to a photographer who said that kind of film is this nostalgic thing that every photographer loves, but now people are moving that way so that you could stay in that moment, and you know, you try to make it as good as possible, because you don't know, at the end of the day, you might have had the cap on the lens or something.
It's true. That's happened to me. And you know, the thing that I think is for me is like having pure analog experiences is very important so you don't get overly digital, right?
Keeps you in the real.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question, up or down?
Up.
Okay. Why up?
Because it's aspirational.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. If you haven't guessed, it's not a serious quiz. All right. Next question is, what does an alternate universe mic do?
Well, I probably would be an astronaut, scientist.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you know, but I have an alternate universe phone. It changes from week to week. This week it decided to be a spider. So I went ahead and called an alternate universe. There are infinite, so this is only one. And that Mike said he also started Flipboard. He states that he stands on a corner for local businesses and flips a board advertising for that business.
Exactly.
It sounds like he's a sign twirler, but seems he loves it. So keep up the great work.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Next question. This one might be difficult for you, but I can't wait to hear. Surfing, backpacking, or climbing?
I would probably, it's a tough call between backpacking and climbing.
That's kind of my figure.
But probably backpacking.
Backpacking? Why backpacking over climbing?
I don't know. It's a longer experience. You can go for more days and it's more immersive. Climbing is more of a thing that I'll do for, you know, an afternoon or something.
Okay.
But I love climbing. It's awesome.
I'm not really an outside person, so I'll take your word for it. I always tell my wife when she's like, let's go somewhere, it's like, you can die outside.
Well,
it's
true.
It's a proven fact. I mean,
that's part of what gives it some of the intrigue, I think, you know.
Yeah.
With
Part of
climbing
life.
especially. You have to
God.
really be very much in the moment so that you don't kill yourself.
I will say, so I'm afraid of heights, but I will say I went rappelling once and it was a blast. It's exhausting, but it's so cool.
Yeah,
All right.
It's fun.
And as usual, the last question will be sent to Mike telepathically. So Mike, open up your telepathic lines. I'll send you the question. Take your time thinking about the answer. Let me know when you have it, and then we'll go. You ready?
Okay, ready.
All right, here it comes. All right. It's a big question, I know. Telepathy has a lot of data in it, so take your time and let me know your answer.
God, let's see. It's not coming to me. Maybe I have a bad internet connection here.
Maybe I sent it to Marcy. Is Marcy in the house? Maybe she got in it. Maybe Marcy picked it up. I don't know.
Let's see. I'll say Pixel Fed. How's that as an answer?
Okay. So then I have to ask the next question. Why Pixel Fed for that question?
It's you know, both Mastodon and Pixel Fed are two of the most inspiring projects for me.
It's amazing.
Mastodon, you know, gets a huge amount of credit, so that's already, though they still should get more. But both Eugene and Dan are like, they're superheroes.
Yeah.
I just look up to them as superheroes. You know, what they do, what they build, how they operate, the sort of their intentions, their sort of reason for doing.
Yep.
And the quality of what they're building. I absolutely love Pixel Fed and I absolutely love Mastodon. They're both just two amazing experiences and projects. So that's why I say
excellent. All right, excellent. Congratulations. You got every answer either correct or incorrect. Good job. Unfortunately, when we attempted to make the dots actually social, they became exclamation points and hopped off. So that's not going to work for you. Someone did ask in chat, when's the next dot social episode coming?
Yes, yes, we've been on a bit of a hiatus, as partly because of the summer, but mostly because I've been so heads down on product work.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get this launch done, and then we'll have another dot social. We've got some great dot social episodes lined up with some great folks, so I'm really
Awesome.
excited about it.
Yes, can't wait to hear it. Can't wait for Surf. Best of luck, sir. Thank you so much for joining me today on Fireside Fedi. I really appreciate it. I can't state enough how much I appreciate not only things like Surf, but your desire to keep it open for everyone. That's amazing. You know, there's a lot of people that are, again, that just want to say, no, this is mine and lock it down. And you think that there's a better way, and that's this. And I can't express to you enough how much that means to me for my kids that are going to grow up into a social web. It is not going anywhere. The least we can do is make it open.
100%, man. I'm happy to, to be a part of Team Fediverse, and I was psyched to be on here with you, Anthony. And
thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Seriously, thank you. And thank you to everyone out there that is watching, that is listening, that doesn't even know this exists, but you're still on the social web. You guys are the reason that make the social web work. Everyone's point of view matters. No offense. I might not want to hear it or listen to it, but you should still have a right to say it regardless of who's controlling what network at any given time. So thank you to everyone out there, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Fireside Fedi. Have a great one. Bye.